She's still laughing.
That's so funny. Welcome to 5 Lemons Left. We're the real stuff, the lemons making lemonade. So pucker up, because we're going to be discussing our life's lessons and the nitty-gritty details of our spiritual journeys.
Hey y'all, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Drusilla.
I'm Melissa.
Hello, this is Morgan.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to our podcast today.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 5 Lemons Laughing. Today, we're talking about our fathers. Relationship. Father. And the relationships that we have with the fathers here on earth. How we celebrate the relationships with our fathers, how our father has influenced the relationships that we have with the men in our lives now, what it takes to heal those types of relationships if they didn't go that well, or if we didn't perceive them as going exactly as we had planned. So I am going to kick it over to Penny, and Penny is going to start the conversation for us this week.
Wow. Fathers can be a wonderful, loving conversation and can be sometimes a heavy conversation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all relationships can't they?
Actually, you're right. Yeah. I mean, my dad's been dead for 41 years. He died of a heart attack at 49 years old before he turned 50. And I have to honestly tell you guys that I was secretly, and I never told anybody this for years and years and years and years and years and years and years, because I was very shameful, but I was kind of happy he died because he was kind of hard to live with. And he was a rager, and his drinking bothered me, and he just was mad at life. And, you know, it was really, I had a lot of shame around thinking that. And I've done a lot of work, I'm in Al-Anon, and I've done a lot of other, A Course in Miracles is helping me to sort out all this shame and forgive myself and forgive my dad. And I really have to tell you that after, 41 years, and probably it's been maybe the last 15, when I've actually been admitting to people that I trust and love and know that they love me and they won't judge me too harshly, that I secretly was happy that he died. And I know that my dad did the best he knew how, the tools he had. And he was a great guy when he wanted to be, I want to say. I think we all choose our attitudes and our behaviors, right?
Yeah.
And And so I'm really happy. Actually, I think we've talked in another podcast that we choose our parents. And so I'm really happy that mostly happy that I chose him as my dad. But you know what's the crazy thing? When you were telling us about the introduction, the questions that we were going to cover today, I realized over the last year or two how I've projected my issues with my dad onto my husband.
Oh,
yeah. And it's really crazy. And my husband does not deserve that at all. And I'm still working to interrupt those patterns. But I do sometimes, when my husband does things that triggers me back to that little kid that was in that house, when that raging or whatever was going on, I go back to being that little girl, and, then all this shit that goes along with that comes up. And so I'm still working on it. And I know that with the help of A Course in Miracles and all the other work that I'm doing, I am learning to stay in my power center and to stay in my mature adult self and know that I'm not back there any longer. And heck, he's been dead for 41 years. I mean, you would think, okay, there I go judging myself again. But you would think that I would be over it. But I don't, there's many people that go to their graves with their, just their disdain for their parents or how they were raised. And I don't want to be that person. And so I feel that the work I've done is really helping me to heal that. So anyway, I just thought I would kick it off with something real light.
I'm so glad we could laugh about this stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Penny.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Could you give us an example of something that you learned, from your dad, or like in that relationship that you're projecting onto your husband?
Well, I think it's just anger. Like he'll act in a way that I don't like. And because I don't like that way, then I get angry and then I start treating him poorly because he's reminding me of my dad. And so that's I think what that's what I'm experiencing. I hope that makes it clearer that his behavior isn't what I like. And that's when I did my 4th step and 5th step in Al-Anon. One of the things that my sponsor really helped me to see is that I had expectations as to what a dad should be. Mm-hmm. And my dad didn't live up to them. And so because of that, my part is that I had expectations of what I thought it should be. And it wasn't that way. And I was out of acceptance. But I was a kid and I didn't know how to deal with all that. But now as an adult, I can see that. And I can say, okay, Dad, right. I had expectations of you and I know you did your best. And yeah, thank you for showing me what I don't want to have in a relationship. So that, I hope that helps, Amanda.
Yeah. And then what are the 4th and 5th steps in Al-Anon?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
I just figure everybody knows.
Yeah.
And if you don't, go to al-anon.org and check it out if someone's drinking is bothering you. It's a really great program where you can find help and healing. So the 4th step is you take a fearless and searching inventory of yourself. And then the 5th step, you admit to God, to another human. No, you admit to God, to myself, and another human being the exact nature of my wrongs. So after you write out your 4th step, all the things that you're pissed off at people about, and you find out what your part is, then you admit it to somebody else. And I admitted it to my sponsor because God already knew. Mm-hmm. And I actually had to admit it to myself too. And it was hard. Really hard, because I was pretty sure everybody else had screwed with me and I hadn't had any part in it. So the 4th step, I was able to see that we always have a 10% part in everything, at least maybe a 1% part sometimes, but that we always have, I think that I better talk about myself. I have a part in everything that occurs in my life. Mm-hmm. And I need to take responsibility for that. And when I first did my first 4th step, I wasn't ready to do that. It took me a long time. I say it was a month, but it might have been longer for me to even begin to see what my part was in some of my resentments. So yeah, that's the 4th and 5th step, and get a sponsor, work the steps, and your life will change.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel after 41 years and however many years of being on this path of Al-Anon and A Course in Miracles and doing your forgiveness practices? How do you feel about your relationship with your father now?
Yeah, like I said, my dad did the best he knew how. He didn't have the tools. I'm so grateful and thankful that I have tools. I don't always use them. But I have them and I know they're there. So I did that answer your question, Morgan? Yeah. Lost my train of thought there for a second.
Yeah, I guess my question is just, do you feel like you've had healing around your relationship with your father?
Yeah. So when I did so to move on and through Al-Anon, in step 9, you make amends to those people you feel you've harmed. And I wrote a letter to my dad, even though he was dead. I still wrote a letter to him and talked about the things that I felt that I had done. Like I was a shitty little kid too, so yeah. So I did that in step 9. And then of course, when we got into a Masterful Living with Jennifer Hadley, it's all about forgiveness. And I think the very first forgiveness letter I wrote was to my dad, forgiving him. But then I think the second one was really to myself, forgiving me for thinking that my dad was the one that needed to be forgiven, So it's a convoluted way, but really I needed to do a lot of self-forgiveness around my relationship with my dad. And really all I wanted from my dad was love. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel that, I just didn't feel it. And, sometimes we're raised where we don't show it like we could. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's all I yearned for was to be loved.
Penny, how do you, Penny, take responsibility as a child for being in a relationship with someone who's abusive or angry, alcoholic? So how do you do that?
Well, that's a big, deep question because when I look back, we look up to the adults in our life when we're children to take care of us and to nurture us and to love us. And that doesn't always happen. Mm-hmm. But I think deep down, this is a really hard question. As a kid, I don't think I had the tools, Melissa. I didn't have them. And that's why I created these survival tactics, like being a perfectionist, being a people pleaser, being doing, running away from myself. That's the latest thing that I realized is that I am running away from myself because sometimes I think that there must be something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. If the adults in my life couldn't love me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was a perfect share, Penny. Yeah. It's so perfect. Thanks, Drusilla.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it still hurts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a process to heal all this. Mm-hmm. And I'm so grateful and thankful that you are here with me to do the work.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's possible for people who had shitty childhoods or, parents who weren't as loving as they could have been, or who were even downright cruel? Do you think it's possible for people to get to a place of peace and reconciliation even after their parent has passed away?
Oh, I totally believe that to be true. Mm-hmm. Because you guys, I'm just focusing on the shitty stuff today, but my dad was actually a really good guy. He was a hard worker. We never we always had food on the table. We always had a running car. We always had clothes on our back. I sound like I grew up like a poor kid. Well, we weren't wealthy or anything, but and he always provided for us. And as we know from our work that raising a family is more than just providing those, but those are the core safety, the core Maslow hierarchy of needs, the core whatever those needs are, those safety needs are core. And it would have been great if we could have gotten up to the higher needs. But that wasn't my story this time around. I had other karmas that I get to work on. And so, but yes, I feel that people can have reconciliation if they do their own work. It's really not about my dad, honest to God. It's about me and my my behaviors and stuff. And, and I forgive it all, myself and my dad. My mom's still alive. And there was one time I said, to Mom, why didn't you leave Dad? I mean, this is unbearable. And I've been reading a book about what happened to me or what happened to you. And it talks about how some women stay in relationships, even though it's traumatic for their kids, because they think the kids won't remember because they're so little. And it's just not true. Little kids are sponges and we watch and see it all. Okay. And so I said to my mom, well, why didn't you leave him? And she said, because I really wanted to work it out. And that was just like, wow. Most people in these day and age, they just leave relationships because they say they don't want to, it's too hard to work it out. So I actually had a lot of appreciation towards my mom when she said that, because that was just the way she saw it. Let's work it out. Let's see what we can do. But sometimes you can't get bread from the hardware store, right, Melissa? Or milk from the hardware store. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how about the rest of you? I mean, this is just not the penny show. This is the 5 lemons. So let's talk about you other lemons.
Oh gosh.
And how your relationship is with your fathers, because I'm sure there's some great stuff out there that you have. Morgan, you said that you have a great relationship with your dad. Let's hear about it.
Yes.
Yes, I feel very fortunate. I was born into a family with honestly, a picture perfect family, loving parents who are still together happily, an older brother, and we get along very well. We're close. And my husband used to joke that, our family is so perfect that it stressed him out and made him feel like some kind of way. I don't know. So, and I was reflecting when you were talking about how your relationship with your father, you project some stuff onto your husband. And I've only had 3 serious relationships in my life, with my husband. And then I dated one guy for 5 years and another guy for a year. And those are the only serious relationships I've ever been in. And I don't see any correlation in those relationships with my relationship with my father. I just don't see the connection. Number one, all 3 of the relationships have been totally different, the personality types and the ways that we interact. And number 2, I don't see my dad in any of them really. So that's interesting, because I know in some psychology, they say that women seek out relationships with men that remind them of their fathers, but I don't really see that so much in my relationship. I don't know. I don't know what to share. I mean, I'm blessed with an amazing father. I don't know. I don't know what to share.
How about so are you, I want to know more, are you a daddy's girl? Does your mom, or has she ever had any issues with him maybe putting you up on a pedestal? I'm only asking these questions in reference to other women I know, and they have daughters, and then their husband elevates their daughter even above them as the wife kind of
That's
thing.
interesting. Yeah, I could see what you're saying. No, I mean, it's just like, I feel like I have a super healthy relationship with my dad and a super healthy, strong relationship with my mom. I'm very close to both of them. Probably closer to my mom, just in the sense that we're more, we're both women. We're more like friendly, like we talk on the phone more and stuff like that. But just as close to my dad, just not in that same way. Yeah, there's not been any weird dynamics. Yeah, just nothing exciting to report.
Oh my gosh, you're so lucky, Morgan.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely, like, I'm the baby of the family because my brother's older, and but they always also are so meticulous about making sure everything's fair. So if they ever give me something, then they definitely give my brother something of equal value. And you know what I mean? Like, they're always like really like honed in on making sure everything is like fair and even. And it's funny. Yeah. So what about you? What about any of you others? Talk about your relationships with your parents, your dad.
Let's hear it, Amanda.
So my dad, so my mom and dad got divorced when I was 3. And to see how, and he died about 11 years ago now in a boat race. And as I got older and I was like watching my mom and my dad separately living separate lives, I was like, what? They should have never been married. Like, so I know, but you know, like what the story was. I think the only reason that they were married was us to have, to have my brother and myself, because their personalities were just opposite. And my dad, I think I've talked about it before. I don't really think that he liked kids that much. So I don't believe that he showed up that much for the growing up process. My brother and I would go spend the summers with him and Christmas, but the majority of the raising was done by my mom. And that made life a little stressful because dad was fun and mom was work. So that strained that relationship, mother-daughter relationship. And my dad was always working. Like he liked to party and he liked money and he liked to work. And he was like, he did boats his whole life and, like hustle, right? He was a hustler. And I think I said this before, but he definitely had white shoes in the 70s. You know what I'm saying?
And the polyester white suit.
Oh, it had to be like he was,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So when I got married, I chose Mike, my husband. He was a very strong work ethic. I just felt very secure with him. And I think that was part of how, like, what attracted me to him was security, and steadiness, and it drove me crazy at some points, right? Because like work, providing, like a man's job was to provide for the family. And Mike does take that very seriously. And one thing that I remember about my dad, or remember thinking, was that my dad always put work first, And when him and my stepmom, they were together for 30 years, somewhere in that neighborhood. And my perception was that it was my dad's way and that's it. And I remember thinking, there is no way I'm going to let a man rule my life like that. Like 0% chance that I'm going to have someone telling me what to do and I'm going to do it. So, like Penny, what you were talking about, like projecting on to your husband. So, some like really like some of the things that I for the forgiveness letters, forgiving myself is applying my dad to Mike, right? Because there's no way Mike was telling me what to do. That's just not happening. It was my way or the highway, and he better get on board with how I wanted to live life. Sometimes it didn't feel like that, but like in retrospect, now that we've been married 25 years this year, looking back, I'm like, oh, maybe I wasn't the easiest person to get along with. And I like to blame it on him, right? I like to blame it on him. Yeah, it's his fault.
You like to blame it on your father or on your husband?
On my husband, right? Like, like life, like when things weren't going well or whatever, like it's easy. I don't know if you guys find this, but it's easier to blame the people in your lives for your life than it is to take responsibility. Penny, like you were talking about the fourth or the fifth step, I'm not sure, but like really doing inventory and taking responsibility. And then letting the whole male species off the hook, because I didn't think that my dad always put work first. Always. That's how I perceived it as a child growing up, and even, into adulthood. That was my perception. And he also,
So we got to be raised fiercely independent, strong, powerful women, right?
Yes, because no man is going to
gonna tell me how to run my life.
No.
Our poor husbands, Amanda.
I know that, right? Yeah.
Well, Melissa and Drusilla.
Well, I had a question for Amanda.
Yeah.
So how was it when he passed away? Like what were your feelings and your thoughts, and have you had to heal and reconcile?
So he was a boat racer his whole life and owned a marina, and just the older he got, the faster and the bigger the boats went. And so when he passed at a boat race down in Key West. So that part of it, like his passing, while it was sudden, unexpected, holy moly, right? That he died doing what he loved. And so that part of it I never felt grief because of the way he died, because it was just that. I almost find it easier because he's passed, like to talk about what's going on, because I know that he's never going to hear it, right? And like really looking back of all the things that I kind of wish were different, I find it easier to do that healing process, right? Because I know that I'm not going to have to call him and say that kind of stuff. And I also know that I remember the last time that I talked to him, he was testing the boats for because they were getting ready to go to Key West. And a guy on the pit crew told me, because we were at the races, I didn't see the crash. We were coming like the next day or whatever. So we flew down there. One of the guys on the pit said, when you called, he made us all turn off all of the testing and all of that so he could talk to you. So that was really nice. Yeah.
That's
and
nice.
happen to things like that happen and we never hear about it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So I know that he always took my phone calls and all that. So I know he loved us, you know, he just like Penny, he was who he was. Like, I know that he loved us and he didn't necessarily mean hugs and hanging out or like going to any high school activity at all. Right. But it was just different. That was just his way of doing it. And I feel like, Morgan, you asked Penny if you feel like that relationship is healed. Yes. And I feel it is ongoing because of the way that I transferred a lot of that onto the other male figures in my life. So that is a process of healing that still is unwinding. And then, you know, I do have an older brother, and there's, you know, that there's healing and all kind, you know, that is the whole male pattern. There's healing that still is unwinding in that as well.
So I have to share. I loved that the pit crew told you that story that he said, everybody stop. I need to talk to Amanda.
Yeah.
I need to hear what she has to say. I have a note from my dad that he wrote. I think it was right shortly before he died, but it was early to bed, early to rise, makes a girl healthy, wealthy, and wise. See you, Dad. Oh. And I have this framed. It's kind of a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I write a lot of notes to my kids so that if they choose to keep them, they can have something from me.
Something, Dad.
One of my dad's favorite sayings was "Go fast." He would sign that. Go fast.
Was he the only one killed in the boating accident?
No, in the boat there were. So he raced those big offshore boats that like look like a pickle fork in the front with canopies over each one. So there's two people. There's a driver and there's a throttle man, and he was the throttle man, and they both died. And in that over that weekend, I don't remember. It was at Key West, the national powerboat races down in Key West. I believe a few other people died that weekend too.
Wow.
Just the winds and the seas. It's just, you know, you don't think about that kind of stuff, but dangerous sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Melissa, Drusilla, regale us with your fatherly tales.
I think mine's too long and complicated. You go ahead. Pass.
Yeah, I get it.
You're passing?
No. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. Okay. Well, I actually, when we got on this call, my dad called. So he must know what's going on.
You can feel it. You can sense it. Be careful.
Yes. So I talk to my dad almost every day, and he's very chatty. But it was not like that my whole life. That's only like in the last 10 years. And so my mother and father divorced when I was young. My mother is very urban and cosmopolitan, and she's a doctor and she's gorgeous. And my dad's a farmer. And it's one of those like, how did this happen?
Yeah. Like that was never meant to be.
What? And all my friends who have met both of them are like, I don't get it. So it's
Green Acres.
Yes.
Yes.
So anyways, I think early when my mom left my dad, he was devastated. And so he kind of left us all. I think it was meant for my mom, but we were in there as well. So
how old were you?
Like third grade, fourth grade. I don't know how old that is, but like he just dropped off the face of the earth. And also he remarried someone and moved her family in, and I always felt like an afterthought. And I think he was really like maybe punishing us for his heartbreak, or just being in heartbreak. But things were never the same after that. And he just like never came to high school graduation, college graduation, and financially never contributed to anything. So there was a lot of abandonment, unworthiness, feelings, abandonment. So in my 20s, I just stopped talking to him. I literally had like 2 years I wouldn't even interact with him. And then probably started doing my work. And so I now have a relationship with him that's very guarded, but very loving too. He's a sweet man. He's a farmer, and just a great guy. He really is. So, things have healed and come around. I feel like I haven't forgotten it though. Like it's there somewhere. And I've done a lot of healing too. I've done Al-Anon work, all that kind of stuff. My mom was an alcoholic, and my dad was kind of passive. So I kind of had that other thing. And then when you think about like marrying your dad, I think I married my mom. Like that can happen too. Yeah. So just that personality. And and then recently, I just have been realizing how much in my life I have tried to find safety. I'm always trying to find safety. It's getting better. But I think it's all from that time in my life when just things were so unsafe and so unsettled, and I couldn't count on my father. And I was just really, like, again, raised by a strong, fierce woman. And I know everyone did the best they could. And I just think too, like, gosh, they're trying to have families in their 20s.
Right.
And like my nephew who lived with us and just moved out, if he even thought about having children, oh my God, he's a wild man, and he's, like downtown doing all that. And imagine not being able to do any of that. And you are a parent of kids, of little people, especially if you didn't plan on it. My parents did. I know other people who didn't. And then I think that just builds so much resentment, and, you don't get to live your life. And so some of those problems come out of that. But yeah, I actually am really happy of where I am with my dad now. We just are friends. We chit chat every day, and we support each other and love each other.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Love that. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you ever get an apology from your dad? And did you have to have an apology to forgive, or did you have to forgive without the apology?
I would say that to this day, my father doesn't think he did anything. Mm-hmm. And I think really what has happened is that it like snowballed into so much shame that from his behavior of kind of choosing other things over his daughters, he just doesn't deal with it anymore. It's just gone. So no apologies, no, nothing like that. Yeah.
That's beautiful that you were able to get to such a like peaceful, happy place in your relationship without that.
I don't know if it's peaceful, but it is accepting, and my sister has helped a lot too, because we were in it together. So we've talked about it a lot. And, I just really feel like I just take who he is today.
Yes.
Because I really can't do anything else.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because there's the school of thought that doesn't really jive with A Course in Miracles, but that people need closure. People need to admit their wrongs. People need to, we need to make sure people really get what we're forgiving them for. So I think that's a beautiful demonstration that the real forgiveness work doesn't require any of that.
And I think it's very much like Penny's story, is that I just had to do it in my mind. And I mean, Penny's father wasn't there. My dad was not available to, work this stuff out with or anything. So I just did it for my own peace. Because I could be living right now just pissed off at my dad. And he'll call and I won't answer. And, I'm going to teach him. I'm 53 years old. That would be me holding a resentment against someone for the last 40 years of my life. And it's poisoning me. It's not poisoning him.
Yeah.
Right. So, he calls, I answer, and that's it.
That's beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Really.
So Drusilla, it's your turn.
Well, I think I have shared with you all before, but yeah, so my husband. See how that works?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, so my dad passed away when I was 12, so it's been over 40 years as well. And I just found out a couple of years ago that he and my mom actually separated when she was pregnant with me. What? I mean, I knew that they divorced when I was like 3 or 4, but I never knew the story. My older sister told me that they actually separated when she was pregnant with me. And that threw me into a little feeling like, I don't know, kind of thing. So when I first joined the ministry and I was told about the forgiveness letter and how they worked, I never planned on writing one about my dad because through the years, I never felt that there was anything that I was holding on about him. I knew they divorced and I felt adored by him, and he lived in a different state. So it wasn't like I expected to see him all the time. So when I did see him, it was just like Christmas, right? You see him, it's Christmas. Hey, I love you. And I felt adored, right? So, but I knew that my sisters and even my brothers, did feel some type of way because they were older and they did remember him living in the house with them and raising them. And my sisters would always say, "Oh, I miss my dad so much." And I thought, that's never, because I didn't have anything to miss really. Right. So it wasn't until I woke up one morning and decided to write a forgiveness letter. And I hadn't planned on writing it about my dad, but something just said, write one to your dad. And I did. And what you explained about your second letter being about you forgiving yourself for the story you made of it, mine happened within 3 sentences in. I was totally channeling my father saying, "You have no idea how much I loved you, how much I missed you. I couldn't tuck you in bed at night. I didn't get to go to your games. I didn't get to do." And I was just bawling. I mean, everything that I could have ever thought of forgiving him for, I ended up having to give myself, the forgiveness for the stories that I told myself about it. And there's been nothing since then except for just wonderful, loving thoughts about my father. Yeah.
It's so beautiful, Drusilla.
Yeah. I mean, I have read that letter to, I know Jennifer had me read it before. I've read it to so many people just because it was the most therapeutic thing. And I'm like thinking, because in my mind, I probably didn't realize the pain and what I was actually carrying around with me, right? Until I started writing that letter. And I swear it was just the most therapeutic thing I've ever done. Of all the forgiveness letters I've ever written, that had to be the most therapeutic and the most loving letter that I've ever written.
I think Jennifer allows that forgiveness letter out to the public, right? Mm-hmm. We can probably put it on. Have we put it on our website? If you want to go to our website, you can probably find it there.
And there's free forgiveness letter writing workshops too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is there any more coming up in the near future, Amanda?
Yeah, they're twice a month now for the next 5 months. And the next one is the last weekend it's June now. So last weekend in June. So we can put the link to register for, you have to register to go to they're free, the forgiveness letter writing workshops. Yeah.
Yeah. For those that are listening, if you have even an inkling of understanding what these self-forgiveness letters are about, it'd be great to go and attend one of these workshops. Amanda, are you running all the workshops?
I do lead some of them. There's a couple other counselors that are starting to do the forgiveness letter writing workshops as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And yes, I do think that I married my father. My husband actually works in construction, the same as my father did. And based on how my mother describes, they have very similar personalities. So work hard, play hard, kind of like your dad, Amanda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Some karmas to heal there, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we are at the end of our time. Any final thoughts?
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Just love the ones you're with.
Yeah.
Go fast. Go fast, people. Yeah. Go fast.
And get to bed early because it makes you healthy, wealthy, and wise.
So those are our Post-its.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go fast.
Go fast.
And go to bed early.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. And we have a giveaway going on our social media right now. So if you're not following us, go check us out on Instagram and Facebook. And we're giving away 3 spiritual books that have been heavily influential for all of us. And we're celebrating 1,000 episodes downloaded. Yay! Thank you. Like us on social media, follow us on your podcast app, share with your friends. Let's reach more people. We love you. Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Bye for now.
Have a beautiful week, everyone. Bye-bye.